Yes, people, welcome to the First XI. This is Grounded Football. We're going to start tonight talking about Man City. Unstoppable Man City. Can anyone stop them? Are they likely to drop off? Are they going to improve? We'll start off with Jem. What's your take on Man City? Top of the league without a striker. Man United dropped points again. We'll do a match reaction on that tomorrow. For two reasons. One, because I've just woken up. I fell asleep through the second half. And I don't really want to get into it right now either. I need to watch it back. But Manchester City, what's your thoughts?
For me, I feel like they're 14 points ahead of you guys, and you're in second. That's massive. There's still 9 games now or so left to be played. For me, I know we're going about the Centurions and how great their teams were, but if they win it in the way that they're winning it and they continue with this unbeaten run, you've got to say that that's probably their best title-winning season based upon the 11 that they've won it with. No striker, they miss Kevin De Bruyne as well. They certain individuals they've made versatile. In what's his name, Cancelo, who was a right back at one point and now is playing in midfield. They brought Diaz in, who has solidified the defence, made them an absolute outfit. It doesn't matter who he's next to, as long as he's in the team, they look good. And for me, Pep at the moment is the best manager in the world. I'd say. I think he's the best manager in the world at the moment. If you look at it and what he's doing there with the players he's got, people question the players that he signed, and I was one of them. I'm sure I think you was as well, Indiana. The players that they brought in originally, and we were saying like, what are they going to do with these players? And he's literally he's got a knack of able to get the best out of people, like getting them playing in to their best. And for me, like I said, if they continue, they're going to win the league. Let's be serious. They're miles ahead. Yeah. And they're 21 games unbeaten on now. It's absolutely ridiculous. If they continue in the mold that they're doing, for me, it's probably going to be their best in my eyes. Other than their first time that they won it with the whole Aguero madness at the end, it's got to be up there with one of the best by far.
Yeah. Rachel, are you surprised with the gap from Manchester City and everyone else? I know Liverpool have had their injuries. For me, they were going to drop off anyway, but the gap is huge. And to be doing this without Aguero, without a recognised striker, are you surprised where Manchester City are?
No, not at all. I predicted them to win the league this season. Obviously, the way it came about was not what we expected because of COVID and how it affected the beginning of the season, but I did expect them to win it. We all knew Liverpool were going to drop off apart from Liverpool fans.
Yeah, that's
true.
That is true.
They were the only ones, really. But do you know what it is with the City team? They're a more complete team than what they've had in previous seasons, I think. In previous seasons, people always questioned their back line, especially if they didn't have company. But now they're solid at the back. Pep's managed to change it up in big games. He's started to play like 2 sort of holding players in big games to stop teams exploiting their weaknesses at the back. They're solid. They've always been great going forward, even without a striker. Like I know Aguero is always a big miss because he's a fantastic player, but the way they play football, the way they create chances, the way Sterling and Mahrez get into certain positions on the pitch and they exploit spaces, they're always going to create chances, and they have fantastic finishes in their squad. Apart from Sterling, I think he's a bit hit or miss, but he still gets loads of chances to score.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? With Sterling, I think if you put him in a Manchester United or a Liverpool side,
he struggles.
He really struggles. But in this Pep side, he gets lots of chances, and his movement's actually very good, Sterling. But for them to be where they are without a striker is outstanding. A player I've got to mention is Gundogan. I think he's just been exceptional this season. It shows their depth. I think they struggled at the start of the season to adapt to not having Aguero. Like a lot of teams did struggle at the start of the season. But they are the machine. They are just a machine. I can't see anybody catching them at all. I can't see it. Even if I think they could lose to. I think they're that good, right? They could lose two key players, which they pretty much have in a way anyway. But they could lose a Gundogan, and they would still be clear at the top.
Oh,
right
because
now.
they've got squad depth. They've got the best squad depth in the league in the league by far. They have better than anyone's, and not just that. They're doing it in my eyes without actually really having a spine. I mean, they've got. If you look at their actual team, all right, you could say there's half a spine there with Edison, now Ruben Diaz. You go into midfield, they've not really. All right, you can say Gundogan this season, but then you try and, like you said, you get to the front and there's no out and out striker. Who's scoring these goals? Like, that's the thing with them. Like, you look at Liverpool, for example, right? They rely on Mo Salah to get a lot of their goals this season, especially, and they've been poor. Do you know what I mean? He's the guy that stepped up. Mane's been absolutely shocking. Firmino goals, it's just been Firmino goals. And then you look at Man City, they have an array of players that contribute to goals across the team. It's not like the one player. They all chip in with goals, and that's a sign of a top quality team when you can do that. You know, Chelsea had it when they first won it in their first season. It was an array of different goal scorers, and you need that. You need that to be a challenger for me. You know, you can't rely on a certain individual to get you through games all the time. And they're just
Jem, they're not just getting through games.
Yeah, they're cruising.
They're not just they are battering teams.
Yeah.
They are scoring all types of goals. It's not just, oh, we haven't got a striker, so for now we just need to rely on a midfielder or two midfielders to get the goals for us. They are a machine when it comes to scoring goals from midfield or other positions. It's almost as if it's disgusting, really, that Aguero could get fit and come back into this.
I thought they would struggle about him. I really did think they'd struggle.
I think it's unfair.
Well, they went one. They were drawing with Wolves, right? And did you once feel like they were going to lose that game? Because they did not just lose; they came back and they smashed them in about 20 minutes or so left of the game. It was disgusting what they done to them. Do you know what I mean? So they're just an immense. They really are. There's not much more to say about them. They deserve it, to be honest. That's all I can say.
They do.
It's well deserved. The question I will ask you though is a fully fit Liverpool side.
No.
Do they retain? Before I even asked the question, she's like, no. Do they retain the title? Do you think they would have retained the title, or do you feel like they would be close to City?
Oh yeah, that's what I was about to say. I wouldn't say. I think they would be there or thereabouts. I don't think there'd be a 14-point gap. I think there'd be probably a 6-point gap at a max. In my eyes, 6-7-point gap between them and Man City. Even though Man City are playing so well, we did all expect the drop-off to come. Don't get me wrong. Liverpool were not going to go through it each and every season with 0 injuries and maximum points. And even though they won it last season, I always said it, they deserved to win it, but everyone else was shit. Let's be serious. We were all poor. Every single team was poor.
That's like this season, though.
Yeah, but
to be honest, Manchester City should be winning it. They're the only team that has quality everywhere on the pitch.
But the excuse this season is Liverpool have had so many injuries. It's not like they've had the fully fit squad to be able to compete at that level, and then it's just a massive drop off because of, them not having, having their players. Shall I say they've not had their players, so their excuse would be, well, we've not had our players, so the drop off's clear. Do you know what I mean? Chelsea was always going to be a build. There was no way we was going to win a league this season. No way in hell. Man United were never going to win the league. I know there's a lot of talk about it from certain individuals, but the grounded Man United fans know that wasn't the case. Do you know what I mean? So it's it is what it is. Yes.
Where do you feel they would have been, Rachel, Liverpool? If they had a fully fit squad, do you feel like they would have been close to City? Do you feel it would have been 6 points or closer, or the gap would be bigger than that?
It's hard to say. They've had so many injuries, but if you're going to judge it, you'd have to judge it on a minimal amount of injuries. They would have gotten injuries anyway, even if it wasn't as catastrophic as what it has been this season. They're still struggling to score goals. Like, I understand Van Dijk being out has affected them at the back, and they've had to play midfielders in defence. But Mane, do we think Mane would have had the season he had last season? Or I think he would be exactly the same, which means they would miss goals from that side consistently. Firmino is a lost cause when it comes to scoring goals. So they would still have had to rely on Mo Salah to score all of their goals. So they would have had a lot of issues. They might have been more solid in terms of not conceding insane goals. But yeah, I don't think they would have come first. They might have come second because they would have had the better starting 11 out of all of the teams in the Premier League, barring City. They probably would have come second, but I don't think it would have been as close as some people would suggest. I think City would have opened up a gap regardless, personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think most of us said at the start of the season, Manchester City will not just sit back. They've got too much quality in their squad. I did not question, but I wasn't too sure that they'd made the right signings. As in, normally when a team comes back, you expect to see a really big name signing. I was thinking like a top striker coming in. Like if they went and got a Lukaku or something like that to refresh them up front. Do you know what I mean? In terms of goal scoring, I wasn't expecting. I don't think anybody was expecting Man City to be clear where they are and Aguero being injured. Like Aguero not being part of that. Sorry, Liverpool to be where they are and not to do any business. I was confused about whether Thiago was the right signing. Jota was a great signing. What's happened to Liverpool in terms of their plan to retain titles, their plan to chase trophies? They obviously had a plan with Klopp, as most clubs do. When you start to get to certain levels, to keep the squad at a certain level or improve on that squad. What's actually happened there?
I don't think FSG when they came to Liverpool actually had an intention of winning the league with Liverpool. I think they made some good investments and they got rid of a lot of players, but I don't think they actually believed they would win it. I think they had Klopp, who was going to probably get them top four regularly, and they might have a one-off season like they did, where they would win something huge. But I don't think they were ever planning to have sustained Premier League success with Liverpool. I don't think that's what their intentions were, because I think if Klopp leaves in the next couple of seasons for whatever reason, whether he's sacked or he loses motivation, and they bring in another manager, I don't think they will invest into the squad and make these massive signings that Liverpool fans might expect them to do. And I think they'll just be a top four team. Maybe even lower, depending on the investment from other teams. But I don't think they're going to be this powerhouse team that's going to constantly challenge for titles. I could be wrong, but the impression I get from what FSG have done, I don't think that's the case at all. So I think Liverpool fans might have to calm themselves down about expectations.
I think they might have to realise that the other side, the blue side, might actually have a better board, a better manager. Not a better manager, but maybe a better manager, a better system. I can see Everton, if they keep Ancelotti and continue adding to the team that they currently got, get better and better and probably become stronger than Liverpool if they do not sort this stuff out. I can't see Mo Salah and Mane being there for longer than 2 or 3 more seasons. I think one of them will go in the summer. I really do. Got a feeling that one of them's just going to go out the door. It's just trusting FSG to then go out and spend money. I think Liverpool fans have got a big problem at the moment. I don't think, even if they sign that one big player, I think they need more than that. I think they need depth, and they haven't got that. And I don't think FSG are gonna actually back them. Like what Rachel said, I don't think they're gonna do a Chelsea and go into madness and cover every area of the squad that they feel that's vulnerable. And they should do, if you look at what's happened this season, because they were vulnerable. They were vulnerable massively. So I can see them just being a top 4/top 6 team. I'm not even joking, like they were before. I'm not joking.
What about if they were to keep a Salah or Mane and then add, I don't know, let's say they add an Mbappe or a Haaland to that squad. Does that make them title winners again? Is that enough?
No. Not in my opinion. I don't think it does. I think with Haaland, he probably would be able to finish a lot of the chances that Firmino misses. But again, I think their midfield leaves a lot to be desired. I know they brought in Thiago, but I'd like to have a rant about that one day, about how Klopp uses Thiago, because he uses him poorly, in my opinion. He doesn't play him in the right areas, and he doesn't utilize his strengths as a midfielder. So even though they brought Thiago in, and who's a a wonderful football player. There's no point bringing in a player like Thiago if you're not going to use him correctly.
Yeah.
So he's basically a wasted signing. If Klopp wants to keep his sort of gegenpress style, he needs to buy the right kind of midfielder, and Thiago is not that kind of midfielder. So then where do they go from here? Do they keep going with that style? Does he change it? Who knows what he wants to do with that? I think Haaland could add more goals to them, but their overall play is limited with the system that Klopp
Predictable.
has at the moment. Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
predictable.
yeah,
So
I agree.
Haaland will add goals, but it will still affect them everywhere else on the pitch. They have to invest into the midfield, maybe a creative winger. They have to start adding different types of players to their team. And whether Klopp is too stubborn to change it is another issue that could happen as well.
Yeah, that's my thing with Klopp. I see him being too stubborn. He will, for me, I feel he's going to push forward with this system. He'll live and die by the sword on that one.
I agree.
It wouldn't surprise me if by next summer he's gone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked whether he walks, whether it's the club agreed they want to go in a different direction, whether he gets the sack. It would not surprise me. It wouldn't.
Indiana, what more does he need to do at Liverpool? Think about it. He's won Champions League with them. He's won them a Premier League that's took him nearly 30 years to do. He's done what he's needed to do. Has he got the hunger to be an Alex Ferguson, for example, at them? I don't think he has, to be honest.
What was Ferguson's best trait, though, Jem? What was the best for me as a manager? What was the best thing about him?
He got the best out of the players, didn't he? Doesn't matter who he brought in. He always managed to get the players to adapt to a system that got the best out of them, especially under Fergie. You only got to look at some of the old players that you guys brought in. Darren Fletcher, an absolute basic player. He made him look like not a world-class player, but he made him look like a top player, didn't he, in Man United? So that's something that Klopp hasn't got, though, is it? Let's be serious. Like you said, he's too stubborn with his style of football. And you can only get away with it so much. And this is why I always say it's important for managers to always have plan Bs. And this is what I'm waiting to see with Chelsea still. Yeah, it's still early. It's good that how we play with the three at the back, but have we got other systems that are going to get the best out of our players, i.e. Ziyech, for example, who we can't get the best out in this formation? Why not have a plan B system? Get them playing a little bit different in case it's needed. Because you can't always forever continue playing in the same style of football. We've done it under Conte when he changed it against Arsenal after we lost to them. He went three at the back. We won the league with it. The next season, we got found out. And he ended up leaving at the end of it. So he needs to... I think as a manager, you have to be adaptable. I really think you have to be adaptable. The players you bring in have different styles. Make it complicated for teams that you're playing against. But that's where I think Klopp suffers.
What I'd say to that is that a lot of the modern managers are very stubborn in their style of play. There are very few managers that will change it up the way Fergie would. Because Fergie did things a little bit differently. He was a manager. He wasn't a coach. So he brought in coaches. If he wanted a certain style of football, he'd say to his coaches, I want this, this, and this. This is how I want my team to play. And they would implement it. He wouldn't do it himself. He was a master delegator, Fergie. That was his strength as a manager. He knew exactly what he wanted and he knew how to implement it without actually being directly involved in it. And then he saw, even with substitutions and analyzing players on the pitch and that, it wasn't just him. He had, Carlos Queiroz, he had Mike Phelan at the towards the later stages. Yeah. And Rene Meulensteen was a huge part of how we played football, especially around the Ronaldo era. Rene Meulensteen is probably one of the best one-on-one coaches. The way he told players to adapt their game, he was a big part of how Ronaldo developed at Man United, especially. So that's one of the things that Fergie had as a manager, and a lot of modern managers don't have. Even Arsene Wenger didn't have it. He didn't have the ability to adapt. He was stubborn. He stuck to his guns, and it ultimately led to his downfall. I don't think there's any managers. Actually, there's very few managers. I can't even think of many that had the Fergie sort of mindset when it came to adapting to different styles of football.
Yeah, no, you're right. He was next level. He was. Do you know what it was with Fergie? He was open to new ideas. He was open to changing things because he was the best winner I think I've ever seen in football. What I mean by that is he will do whatever it takes to win. He will move players on in their prime. He will go out and he will buy a striker when he's already got 4 top strikers just to change up his system, just to be able to just to allow him to do that, to push a player maybe, to add some competition. We don't see enough of that in the Premier League. We don't see enough of it.
It's changed.
It has
massively.
I think the Man Cities and Chelsea actually, Chelsea have probably underachieved for the money and the model they have, if I'm honest.
In what way? What do you mean by that?
Just that Chelsea can spend the money they have, and I know you're going to say, yeah, Man United spend money. The owner has the ambition to win, really wants to win. They'll change up the managers when needed. They'll buy the players. Their academy's been better than all right. Let's be honest. Like the players they've come through the academy, they haven't even used in their first team have been outstanding a lot of the time. I feel like they should have won more with the model they have, with the club, the board, the owner, the managers they've had, than what they have won. I think Chelsea could have been, before Man City came in, Chelsea could have been completely dominant in the league. I don't think, let's be honest, Fergie's last title, when you look at what Chelsea have got and their ability to buy players, all the things I've just said, I don't think Fergie had a right to win that title.
No, not in his last one. Not in his last one, no. I agree.
Do you feel like Chelsea have underachieved, Jim, in terms of...
I can't say we've underachieved because for me, from going from not seeing anything to then seeing my team win every single trophy possible, it's hard to say that we've underachieved. I think if you look at it over nearly 20 odd years, or 17 odd years since we've had money, and yeah, you could say over that stint we've underperformed. We haven't won a Premier League for the last 4 years. That's not good enough for a team that's can continually change, like you said, and adapt to become the best at any time. You got to bear. I know we had a ban as well. We had a transfer ban. I think it was for 1 season, wasn't it? Which we have to take into consideration. But I think what Chelsea have always done, and it's the model we always face, is that we've just bought players based on their name rather than their actual merit. If that makes sense. Like we brought in a Fernando Torres who we thought was going to come and do bits like he did at Liverpool.
It was already done.
Yeah.
By Falcao.
Well, we did the Falcao thing as well.
No, the Falcao thing for Chelsea was worse because they'd seen him at United. I never understood that one. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it was weird.
It was. I know. It wasn't the most expensive thing, and I think you only had him on loan as well, didn't you? But it was just a weird signing. Do you think at the start, especially with Abramovich, there was too much trying to please him in terms of signings, players that were played? I thought really it felt a bit like that with Frank. Like Frank was forcing a system to get the new signings into the side. I don't know what you think on that with Abramovich and the start and how he's changed and Chelsea's achievements compared to what they could have achieved, if that makes sense.
Who, me or Jem?
Yeah. Sorry, Rachel, you go ahead.
What are you asking me? If think they've underachieved? If they've
underachieved, and as a Man United fan looking at Chelsea, do you feel like those players we just spoke about? Do you feel like Jem said they were bought for the name? Do you feel like Abramovich's influence at the start of his reign was pressure on managers to play certain players, Shevchenko's? Do you know what I mean? Like some of the players he brought in, you're just like, I don't really understand this, and yet they're still getting games. With Frank, I feel like he was I could be completely wrong about the Frank thing, but I felt like he's playing players there that he doesn't need to play right now because they're not ready to play in the Premier League. And last season you got fourth, you got top four without them. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts of Chelsea in general are quite. So when we talk about football philosophy of a club, you know how
Hello.
like.
Sorry, can you hear me? Because I was talking to myself. I was talking for ages. Like, why is he not listening to what I'm saying? I was answering all your questions as well. Sorry, mate. Sorry. Go on, Rachel. Sorry.
It's all right. When I look at Chelsea in terms of a footballing philosophy, when you look at the managers that they've had which have been successful, like Mourinho and Conte, Ancelotti. Ancelotti's probably an exception, but have you noticed that they had Jose Mourinho? Then they brought in was it Ancelotti you brought in? Obviously, you had like Goose Hiddink and Avram Grant and all that in between.
Yeah.
But every time Chelsea have tried to bring in a more saucy manager like Scolari or something like that, they've sort of failed a bit. Every time they've tried to have a manager that has a more attacking philosophy, they sort of failed a bit because the spine of the team that was there for so long, John Terry and Drogba and Lampard and that, they were so much more suited to the way Mourinho and Conte would have played. So if Roman Abramovich sort of his ego was just a little bit smaller, he would have known that Chelsea would have had a lot more success if they didn't go for the Scolari type and they went for an Allegri type, a Simeone type, managers that implement a style that the Chelsea legends would have bought into, and they probably would have had more success that way. Sustained success as in retaining titles and winning more in one season, getting Premier League or maybe getting the Champions League sooner. But because he kept trying to change it and buying certain types of players, like I remember you guys worked with Deco as well. Yeah. All these kind of players, which are completely different to the way the Chelsea legends actually played. It made things a lot more difficult to implement a certain style with those players, and then having the Chelsea legends who had a certain way of playing in the first place. I think that's a problem that Chelsea have had. So obviously Lampard, let's be real, Lampard only got the job because no other big manager wanted to deal with Chelsea with the transfer ban. That would probably be the reason for it.
What happened with Indiana with the whole? Because I heard you say about Roman Abramovich signing certain individuals because he wanted them. Andrei Shevchenko was his mate, and he was signed because he was his mate. We didn't actually want him. That sounds stupid, but he was playing for Chelsea because of Roman Abramovich. After they'd played games, he'd go and have a bottle of wine with him and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's just random.
Crazy.
But what happened with what Rachel was saying was right, and the reason was it was Roman Abramovich called for Chelsea to start playing sexier football. We introduced Eden Hazard, Oscar Willian, and Juan Mata at the time from Valencia to try and impose a better style of football. And the reason for that is because around that time you started seeing Barcelona's with the Xavis and the Iniestas and the Messis playing this, great football, keeping it on the floor, sexy football, which was new to our eyes at the time. Because Spain, it wasn't just Barcelona, but Spain in general. If you remember Spain doing it in the World Cups, and Abramovich saw that and thought, you know what, I want a bit of that. I want to change the model of how we had won in the past under the Ancelottis and Mourinho's. I want us to play with sexier players and and a sexier style of football in many ways. And you're right. It took us longer to adapt, and it took us a long time to actually. When you think about it, after Ancelotti, the next time we won it was with Mourinho,
and then it was Conte as well.
And then it was Conte, and it was all back
going
to
back to
square
the
one.
pragmatic.
When you think of it, going back to the so you're right. Maybe it was our fault for trying to adapt to a style that just didn't work for us. Should have just stuck to what we knew. So,
especially when you had the core players in the squad that were there from the beginning. Lampard and John Terry, all those types who were successful under that style. I think when you started to change it with Scolari and the like, I think it really affected
AVB, blimey now. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, exactly. Nightmare.
This is actually a really good segue into something I want to talk about. But firstly, please hit the like, share, subscribe. Make sure you go and do that right now, please. Everybody's links are in the description below, so go and follow them. Go and subscribe to their channels as well. RDS is here. I don't know. Is he here?
Yeah,
Are you
I'm here. Yeah,
here?
sorry. Apologies
Sorry.
again.
No,
I always
that's
have weird family emergencies that seem to come up around this time, so I'm sorry.
So
So it's
I've got-
but one man.
yeah, good. So I want to talk about. I was going to talk about the Ollie versus Tuchel thing, but I want to talk about it, but for a different reason.
Okay.
So Tuchel comes in because Frank's dropped off. Hasn't been able to get the best out of the squad. We know that. We know that Tuchel's a great manager,
Tactician.
Yeah. Manchester United have got another draw tonight. Couldn't score a goal even with Cavani. Do we feel at all that a Tuchel type manager coming into Manchester United would get more out of this squad? Would we have got a result tonight with a better manager? Should we really be thinking now about changing it up? Has it got a bit stale at Manchester United?
I don't know. It's a bit difficult because, like, I know maybe people sound like this is an excuse, but again, it looks like, and only because I've seen us the last couple of seasons, it just looks like the players are tired again. Like, it's like we're in March now. Everyone's been going non-stop since August. There's been no real winter break. We've been playing, and I did kind of say this when we're like, oh, we're playing League Cup, FA Cup, Europa League, and I'm to rotate things. Some of those players have basically been playing, like, how many games has Harry Maguire missed? You know what I mean? Like Wan-Bissaka same, Bruno Fernandes same, you know, so I know it might sound like excuses, but like I just get that vibe that a lot of these players are just tired and we're going into the back end of the season where like you know, especially because let's be real, the title's over. So really, what is there from a domestic point of view to play for really? It's just top four really. And the reality is that when you look at the other teams around, not only Manchester United, but a lot of the other teams are also not quite inconsistent. You know, Chelsea are drawing, Liverpool don't really know, Leicester drop points to Burnley. So everyone's kind of in this kind of weird hazy, which I think probably stems from, I mean, the fact that we're having an international break and people are going away, I don't even understand. Like, why are we having an international break for pointless friendlies or possibly? Why should Rashford go to play against San Marino? I don't understand, you know. Yeah. I'm not here to try and defend or something like that, but I do think that there is an argument to be had where, like, if we know United aren't going to be winning the league, so
Are you
really.
sure?
I know Chelsea are.
No, I've heard many United fans say it, RDS. So I was just asking.
Well, the thing is, they said it when we were top of the league. But, you know, I heard certain man before the season started that wore the colour blue that they were going to challenge for a league, and
that was one person. That was one person.
You know, what was it? You know, the Twitter sphere, the Chelsea Twitter sphere. You know, where I say, I even heard some people say that Kai Havertz was the next German Zidane type of thing.
You never know, mate. Still very early. You never know.
Well, he better be for 100 million. He better be. You know,
we'll see.
We will definitely see. But yeah, I mean, you know, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that, like, at the end of the day, like, we're not going to win the league. And I would argue United are fairly comfortable from a top four point of view, personally for me, just because everyone outside of Manchester City is inconsistent. So really, maybe I'd be a bit more annoyed if, like, in the Europa League and the FA Cup, we just don't give a damn, because at least that's the only opportunity of winning a trophy. But as far as the league goes, you want us to smash it? I'm not justifying the performance. I'm just sort of saying it's not like there's anything specifically to play for right now in the league. So in a way, I can't understand why the drop-off is there, especially now that we're at the end, towards the back end of the season, when players clearly look tired.
Do you know what is mad though? Yeah, right. If we beat Liverpool tomorrow, and it's a big if we beat them tomorrow, and then you lose to Man City, and we beat our next game, which is
Everton.
It's always the
we're above
comparison.
you.
Chelsea,
We're
Man
above
United.
you. No, there's not a comparison. I'm just saying,
Is it?
it's. I'm just saying how close it is in terms of
Yeah.
points. You've been
I
sitting in
think
second for a very long time, haven't you? We
I
were
think
10 points behind you as
I
well.
think
You're right.
I think you'll draw to Everton and Liverpool though, because
Yeah.
the irony is that Chelsea and United have the same problem in that you're also not scoring goals,
No, we're not. No,
and now we're not scoring goals as well. You know? So, to be honest, actually, and maybe this is a question, like even City, as good as they are, they're scoring goals with defenders.
yeah,
Like,
no.
which clubs are actually scoring goals with actual forward players and wingers? Because most clubs are scoring goals with deep lying midfield players and defenders.
Liverpool still are with Salah. That's about it. Because that's the only one that scores in their blooming team, from what I've seen so far.
And even then, did he score the last?
He always scores. Every time I look, he's blooming scored.
He didn't score against Sheffield though. It was Curtis Jones. And,
that's a one-off game. But I'm saying before that, it was always Salah, blooming Salah, getting him out the wing, wasn't it? But it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I feel that top four is wide open for. I've said for a long time, and you're making quite a good point here, RDS, that players look tired tonight. As we go through this season, and the further teams go into cup competitions, Europe, the Premier League, fixtures build up. The teams that drop out of these competitions probably have an advantage in the Premier League, I feel. The season's so congested. The first half of the season was probably the worst we'll ever see in terms of quality of football due to a lack of pre-season. There will be teams that players that pick up COVID. There will be bigger problems. There will be injuries. This is a good segue into what you wanted to talk about, RDS, is West Ham. Lingard's
Lingardinho.
Lingardinho. He's
Messi Lingard, man. This is Messi Lingard.
Yeah, Messi Lingard. That's the one. Yeah,
exactly.
The way he's been playing at West Ham, the way they've come through the season, where they are. I've said for a long time, I feel like Manchester United will drop off. I still think we'll make top four. I do expect us to make top four, but it's wide open. It's wide open for those other two positions, no?
Yeah.
Who do West Ham have enough to get into top four? Do we expect Liverpool to be making a push into top four? We've got Chelsea making a push into top four. It is wide open.
Oh, sorry, I'll put that out there.
I think it's quite possible that we could, dare I say it, drop out of the top four. I don't think our position is solidified at all, especially considering how we're playing at the moment. And this form that we're on, it's been this way, in my opinion, since the turn of the year. I think we've been awful in a lot of games, and we've gotten away with it with very, very clutch goals from Pogba or Bruno. Our overall performances are poor. And I tell you something, the decisions from our manager to play certain players in certain competitions midweek, to me, is going to. I think I said it in the stream with Gem and Lambs. Actually, I don't think Ollie has rotated this squad properly, because starting Bruno Fernandes in that Sociedad game is shocking to me. You start him. He's going to start in the weekend game. He starts in the Crystal Palace game. He starts in the Man City game. He's probably going to start against AC Milan, which I believe is next week, isn't it?
If he's fit.
If he's fit. And then he'll probably play on the weekend game again. And then he'll play in the second leg against AC Milan if we don't get the job done. And that's no guarantee, because AC Milan they have some very good players. And if our players are already tired and we don't get the job done in the first leg, Bruno will have to play in the second leg. And it's the same thing with Rashford. Two of our most important players in terms of actually getting goals and creating something in games. Pogba's not, I don't know when he's back, but we can't rely on him to carry us. So if Bruno and Rashford are not scoring goals for us, we don't score goals. We might get the odd, banger from McTominay or whatever, but in terms of consistently scoring goals, we're not getting it at the moment. And Bruno and Rashford, you've seen their performance today. It's not even that our passing was poor. The runs they were making, they just looked tired. And Ollie will still play them. He will start them in big games. He'll start them in the smaller games. And he'll burn them. He's already burnt them out, in my opinion. Rashford should have been rested ages ago because Rashford's been poor, in my opinion, again, since the turn of the year. He scored a couple of goals, but he's been poor. His overall performances have been awful at times.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think some of that could be tied to the form of Martial. I don't really know what's going on with Anthony Martial right now because last season I think he was our top scorer last season, and obviously shared the load with Rashford and Bruno Fernandes, etc. Cavani's come in. I don't think the way I saw it, Cavani was not supposed to come in to replace Martial, just to be what I would argue a traditional number 9, to just add something a bit different. And I think it worked. Especially because Martial can play on the left and contribute and what have you. But I don't know what's happened to him because it's not through lack of game time or being played. Something's happened.
He doesn't like competition. I really don't think he likes it. I think he likes to be the star guy. He wants to be the one number 9. But the thing is, when we brought Zlatan in.
But the thing is, Cavani's been injured quite a few times this season, so there've been opportunities. I think the shocking thing for me was the game at the weekend when Cavani's injured. So against Chelsea, he wouldn't have done this last season. He went with Greenwood, Daniel James, and Rashford. Brexit FC is Martial was there. Last season, he would have gone with Martial as number 9, Rashford on the left, and Greenwood. That was our front 3 that got us to top 4. So the fact that he's benched Martial effectively to get Daniel James in, means to me that he's not even considered the second choice number 9. So there's something up.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't know what's.
But you have to step up. He's a 25-year-old striker who can score goals, and you have to show a bit of fight.
That's what I'm saying. I think something is going. It doesn't make sense to me that you do that in the case of Chelsea sitting unless there's something going on in the background. Like I think there must either he's just completely short on confidence. Doesn't bother, whatever, or maybe
I think it's a mentality issue, Ardias. I think he's seriously got a mentality issue. He's got all of the ability in the world to become a top quality player. He is probably on ability. He's probably your best forward. If you look at him on his day, he's that he can be that good. It's just that he don't become that good because he lets himself down, and that's a mentality thing. It ain't anyone else. That's something to do with himself in my eyes. So, and I don't know what it is or what the reasons are, but like you said, he gets shot in confidence too quickly, and that's an issue. You know what I mean? Especially at the top level.
I think there is a mentality issue, but there's also an issue with our number 9s in general this season. If you look at anyone who's played as a number 9, I mean, Cavani has 5 goals? Martial has probably 4 or 5 goals, maybe not even that. Greenwood hasn't been scoring on the right wing or as when he's played number 9 every now and then. So if you look at, I haven't seen the stats on this, right? But from what I've seen, the number of touches that our number 9 gets in the box, even if it's not in a key goal scoring position, whether they're facing the goal, whatever, they're not getting enough touches in the box. That's changed from last season.
Before tonight, I think it was averaging at 4 per game.
Is that per player or just 4 per game? For the front three?
No, not for the front 3, per player. So no, sorry, that's on number 9. So whoever's playing number 9, that was either Martial or Cavani, and that was before the Chelsea game. Before the Chelsea game, was averaging about 4 touches.
That's not good enough
per game.
Any number 9, it's not good enough. And whether it's the service or the player not taking up the correct positions, and it's probably a bit of both. I'm not going to attribute everything to Martial. I think he does have some deficiencies as a striker, in terms of his movement in the box, where he positions himself, and his desire to actually get onto the end of things. But Martial is a player that likes to link up the play, as we all know, and all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't, when he's linking up the play or when he's holding up the ball or waiting for a runner, he's not doing it in the box, or probably he's not even doing it around the box, really. He's probably doing it a lot deeper than he should be. So that in itself is an issue, not just with the personnel, but it's an issue with all of our strikers and the way we're playing football at the moment. So if Ollie wants to address that, or the coaches want to address that, they have to look deeper than just it's Martial's fault, in my opinion.
I agree.
Martial does have his criticism, don't get me wrong. I think he's been poor this season. But when you have Cavani, Martial and Greenwood struggling as a number 9, then it's more than just the personnel, isn't it? It's something bigger than that. And that's something that needs to be addressed.
Does it not go back to what I said about your system, maybe not having that and not getting the best out of that?
I don't know.
What I'm saying is, wait. What I'm trying to get at when I say that is, if you have a Tuchel in there, do you get would he get the best out of Rashford and Bruno more so? Do you think they would adapt to his style of football better because he has a style that he knows he likes to play?
But let me ask you something. When was you say is the last good number 9 Manchester United have had?
Lukaku.
Zlatan and then Van Persie before then.
Yeah.
Probably Van
Maybe
Persie.
Zlatan had his issues.
Zlatan, maybe, yeah.
And even then, the thing with Zlatan was that, like, what I noticed after a while was that, like, if you watch United games, why I don't think we could have challenged for a title with Zlatan, was that after a while you saw that teams basically put defenders essentially on the halfway line because they knew that, yes, Zlatan's great in the box in terms of trying to fun, fine, but in terms of actually pressing and going forward, he doesn't have any pace. So defenders could just sit up and they could press us and cause us problems because they knew they could always catch up with Zlatan and intercept no problem because they beat him in a race. Lukaku, a bit quicker and better, but he, like Martial, like Rashford and so on, often suffered from a lack of service and obviously his link-up play, etc. So, as I think they said, Robin Van Persie was probably the last time. So this is going on to Sir Alex Ferguson times. This is 8-9 years.
But Hernandez as well. He was a top number 9, wasn't he? Poacher.
He was a poacher.
A poacher, you know. So it does have to do with, and to be fair to Ollie, it's like, you know, we look what Erling Haaland is doing right now with Dortmund in what I would argue is a brickish Dortmund side, who's currently being managed by the ex-assistant West Ham coach. I'm sorry, you can't say the ex-assistant West Ham coach is levels above Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He got sacked from West Ham for a reason, is now managing Dortmund. But you can see the quality that Haaland and Sancho bring. Bellingham's there, and those are 3 players that Manchester United were linked with. 3 players that our board, for whatever reason, decided that were not going to be options on the table. I'm not saying it's all that, but football evolves, football changes, and sometimes you do need that extra quality to see what happens, and that affects the rest of the team as a result. You know,
my issue with this is if you can't get the best out, if it is a mentality problem, and you can't get the best out of your players, whether it's your fault or not, sometimes you do just have to change up the manager. You have to change something up. You have to bring someone in with fresh ideas, so a new confidence. That's my issue with it. Is that if they, and it's not even to do with trusting the manager. It's that it's just got stale. It's just got too samey for the Martials or the Rashfords or the Greenwoods. Different for Cavani because he's just come in. But maybe new ideas do need to come in. Maybe maybe just changing the coaching staff, the striker coach. I don't actually know who works with the strikers at Manchester United. I don't know.
Lampard's looking for a job though. Maybe ask him.
Please no.
Nah, don't worry.
Have mercy on me. No.
To be honest, I personally don't see. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I don't really see the massive improvement that Tuchel's done for Chelsea right now. But that's my controversy.
Not yet.
Since you're
I think they're worse up front.
Bearing in mind, we was. Oh, yeah, you can say that. It depends. I think it's still too early to say anything with Tuchel at the moment, but he has managed to claw us back closer to top 4. which is the only thing I can say so far that he's done. So we'll just have to see.
But he did that whilst we're playing games that were arguably, in quotes, games that Chelsea should beat, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but he's only been there 3 weeks, RDS.
No. I know, I get that. I'm just saying that, like, if we're talking about like the way that like they like play, because you're right, but at the same time, I'd also say that there are other managers that come in and you're like, oh right, okay, I can. The play that they're playing, the football they're playing, is different to not just like Big Sam going into West Brom. Like the difference between the way he played and Slambridge played, it was clear night and day based on the manager they brought in. So while I agree that you need time, you can still kind of see what a manager wants to do because they have control of the team they want. And Tuchel clearly has a possessive-based team, and I don't know whether Chelsea, and again, this is the difference between Chelsea and Manchester United, whether Abramovich is going to be like, you know what, we're going to spend another 200 million in the summer.
Oh, he is. No, I don't know if he is unless he sells someone, really.
Well, yeah, exactly. So and you get that style of thing to play they want. But if that's the case, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not necessarily going to say that you're going to get a radically different style of football next season than you are now, if that makes any sense.
I don't think. Yeah, I understand that. I think Chelsea's biggest problem, from what I've seen of them, is the final third. They're what's it called? The end product is a problem.
It's always been for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So their midfield play is decent. They keep the ball very well. They press quite well. They play out from the back quite well. They need players that will get the ball into the box one way or another, whether it's through crossing, low crosses, intricate play around the box. That's what they need. And
in the net.
Finish it. Yeah, and they need someone to finish it. That's what they need. So in terms of the way they play football, from what I've seen so far under Tuchel, I think the way they play football is fine. I like possession-based football personally. So it's nice to watch possession-based football. They just need something in the final third, something creative, a creative winger, a striker maybe, and maybe even an attacking midfielder. I don't know. Like Mason Mount's decent. Like he's a good player, Mason Mount, I think. But is he that player that will take up that level?
The Devils, they spend, and going to that comment by Realistic and Real Chris, it's like if you just wanted a guy to make you difficult to beat, then you hire Big Sam. You know what I mean? Like if it was 260 million for top four, when like that's why I didn't understand. It was like if you're going to be bringing this guy in, you're bringing this guy in so you can basically compete for the Premier League, the Champions League, etc. The investment that you have. But if the standard now is just let's just make sure that we maintain top four to get around,
it's a definite win thing. Roman Abramovich doesn't spend that money for us to solidify top four. Trust me, it was definitely. Look, I said at the beginning of the season that we weren't going to win the league. I just don't think you can buy that many players and switch your team around that much to then go and challenge for a title in one season. Just think it's impossible. People forget that the players that we actually bought are young players. They weren't like bag of experience. They were Kai Havertz, who was a talent in the Bundesliga. Timo Werner, right, is a side note because he's you would say more experienced, even though he's still quite young himself.
But they weren't bought on potential either. Really, they were bought on what they'd achieved the previous season.
But they were never going to come in. They were never going to come in and win us a league straight away. These players weren't winning leagues in their own German leagues. You know,
but they were brought in to compete.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a difference between being seventh and being 25 points off first, and being like second and being like 3 or 4 or 5.
But RDS, let's be serious. Who thought Man City would go 21 games unbeaten at the same time? Do you know what I mean?
No,
that's immense. Like,
I don't think anyone did. And like I said, I think fundamentally my point is that I think it's still difficult to judge things because at the end of the day, this has still been a very unique season. It's a weird season, pandemic stuff like that, and so I see a lot of reactionary stuff on Twitter and stuff. And it's like at the end of the day, like we're still in a pandemic. Players have played a lot of games. We're not certain clubs not getting as many transfers as they want because basically clubs are just broke. There's no fans. You don't know whether getting fans in the stadium, does that make a difference to certain games and so on. So there's many factors. So I wouldn't be, unless like a club is doing really, really badly and must have change, I'd be reticent to make a change based on what we see right now, unless, you know, things go back to normal and that is carried over. Especially, you know, when at least we've seen as well. I don't even think there's even going to be a pre-season this season. That's what ridiculous about it, because after the season's over, people are going straight to the Euros.
Yeah, that's true.
When are these players going to get a rest?
Yeah.
When are they going to get, generally, when are these, I know we expect high levels from them, but when actually are they going to rest?
They'll get 2 weeks, max. They always get 2 weeks. Yeah.
That can't be, you know, I mean, I'm not jumping performance, but that can't be right, surely.
You know, it's too much.
It's too much.
It's way too much. I mean, Jem knows my views on internationals, especially the England team. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see young players called up, the Greenwoods. I don't want to see it happen. I actually called that. I called that something would happen to Greenwood if he went to England. It's too soon. He's too young. We don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be doing that at all.
Yeah.
But what will happen is we'll get a player pick up a big injury or be that run down that they come into the next season and pick up an injury. That's what will happen. It's just too much football. They need a break. It's just too much to ask. For us football fans, they've kind of, well, for me, I can only speak for me really. They've kind of kept me afloat just from being able to watch football during the pandemic, for being able to talk to people. I wouldn't have met any of you. Me and Jem talk every day on the phone. Me and Jem talk every day on the phone. I talk to Jem more than I do my partner or my own children or my children. Do you know what I mean? Like it will be a shame for us to get to a stage where players are having to suffer for our entertainment. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's
Roman Colosseum time, like in the Roman days, the Roman Colosseum. We're like, go on, get each other, go on.
At the same time, they're getting paid so much, aren't they, as well? That's the only problem. They get paid so much.
I don't disagree with that, but you know, as a medic, like, it's not even just about pay. It's just about physical, like, fatigue. You can be paid as much as you want, but if you tear your hamstring, you can't do anything about that, you know, like no matter how much you're paid. So it's like Jana said, like what you're going to have is that like some of these players will go on international duty, they'll get injured for next season, or they'll be so tired that they'll start next season over. There won't be enough planning for pre-season for other managers, and so you're carrying the reality of this season on into next season. And you know, it goes back to something like, I know people are surprised about City, but the reality is that City probably have the best squad in the league. So I know they're going to run, but are we really surprised that they're the best when they actually, by default, have the best squad? The best squad wins. They've got the best depth.
Yeah. No, you're right. Do you know the one player that I really fear for? Rashford, yeah. I think for such a young talent, on top of that, everything that he's been doing outside of football, he's been played too much already for me. Way too much. He's going to start picking up injuries.
He does, doesn't he, usually?
Yeah.
On the other occasions.
But Jem, the thing is, as you get older, it takes longer to recover from these injuries. It's not an 18-year-old kid anymore. But by the time he gets to like 25, he could get the injuries that really hold him back. I mean, like it could end up having a career where he has to retire at 28, 29, maybe younger, or go and play in Spain in a warmer climate, just to be able to play football. The Premier League is tough. The Premier League is tough, and when you're being forced to play game in, game out for Manchester United, you know, at the top level, not the top level, because we're not there. I'm never going to say that about Man United right now, but he's also the type of player that he is, and you ask him to go to England, he's gonna want to play for England. If he gets picked every time, he's going to be putting his all in for England. He comes back, and then you're asking him to carry a team again. It's too much. It's way too much.
Ollie needs to pull a Fergie with Rashford and basically block him from going to play for England. It sounds bad, but I think that's what he needs to do. Because not just for Manchester United personally, but for Rashford's sake. And Ollie needs to start resting him. He needs to, because I think this is a good time for it. Because, like I said, Rashford's been poor for a few weeks now. Give him a rest. Give other players a chance. And see where you go from there. But he has to be protected from England. He really does. They're friendlies, aren't they? They're not even.
Yeah, I was like, who are the teams that I saw that England were playing San Marino? I have seen no reason why Rashford should be on that pitch against San Marino. No disrespect.
No, you don't need him.
I'm not the country, but play
Danny Ings.
Like or just really, really young players like England's under 23s. Saka. Maybe Arsenal, but you can even play England. Send the under 23s over. That one experience, that's fine. You don't even need to play first team players. Let's be real.
Mate, you can play Ollie Watkins up front and you'd still beat San Marino. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You could even recall Phil Jones if he magically recovers from his injury, and I still think they win. So
you could change Joe Linton and Timo Werner's nationality, and they'd go.
You know
what I mean?
So, but we have a England manager coach who is also quite stubborn, I think, and also has his favorites, also wants things going on. So that, I think, is also a problem. So
if we go back to the topic, RDS, take Jesse Lingard. Take Jesse Lingard.
Oh gosh,
They got Grealish. They got options there, haven't they? Let's be serious.
He doesn't like Grealish, though. He doesn't like Grealish.
If you look at the talent of young players that we possess in the England team now, we never had that 10 years ago. You couldn't pull a Grealish, take a Lampard off and throw a Grealish on. Do you know what I mean? Or a Saka, or a Greenwood, or do you know what I mean? Or any of these, Mason Mount, for example. Like, you can do that. They've got so many options now.
It was worse than that, Jem. We used to keep Paul Scholes on the bench.
Or play him on the left.
Or play him on the left.
I remember that.
It was worse. It was worse.
There's options, though, isn't there? It's a lot. There's a lot more options to choose from. There's a lot of talented players in the Premier League that deserve an opportunity.
I think when it comes to England, you can pick the England team just by looking through the papers that season. I think it's the media pretty much picks the England team a lot of the time.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the big problem with it. I've got no issue with an Ollie Watkins, right? If there's a system and he's that one player that fits the system, I would have no issue with dropping a Harry Kane and playing an Ollie Watkins if it meant it was a different style of football. It fitted the system. It fitted what the manager wanted to do. What tends to happen is that England, what does happen is that managers force players into the team and try to make it work. They just force it. I don't care who's dropped. This is the same for my club. I don't care who's dropped. I really don't care. I don't care that Martial is my favourite player on the ball and he's dropped. I don't care if Paul Pogba is one of my favourite players at the club and our best footballer and he's dropped if it means we're winning the games. I don't care. The same as you, Jem. You wouldn't care if it was a Pulisic that was dropped and you were winning games if he's your favourite player.
No, of course.
With England, it's very different. It's very different. It's the names get played.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
A lot of that just comes, you're right, it's media pressure because, I think Harry Kane is a very good example of that, where, if Harry Kane isn't played, it's like, why isn't Harry Kane playing? Why isn't
he's playing? RDS. He's playing in the friendlies.
That's bad as well, by the way. Harry Kane playing. We're not Spurs fans here, but from a Spurs fan point of view, that's really bad that Kane's playing because Kane's got injury issues. He always picks up a massive injury
that's because of
every
England
season.
and Tottenham. They've ruined his career. I'm telling you, honestly, he's always forever.
It might be a blessing for Spurs fans because if he does pick up an injury, maybe he won't move.
Yeah,
No.
people won't buy him. They won't buy him.
You're saying that Gareth Southgate has the Premier League's top 4 race in his hands then? Because depending on who comes back from injury, might be affected by the top 4 race because certain key players might, maybe on a serious note, I don't know, but certain key players might be. So I remember, wasn't it last season when there was a time when because this is actually what started Liverpool's injury crisis, because I think Henderson and Trent and a few others were away on duty or injured. So Liverpool lost some of their players. So I don't know whether there might be something similar.
You never know.
You don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? We actually. I just want to get your thoughts quickly, just before we wrap up.
Okay.
Because the rest of us spoke about this in the Chelsea Man United review. Referees being mic'd up. What are your thoughts on this?
I was arguing with Jem about this because Jem was like, "Yeah, you give some, you lose some, So it's like it is what it is." It was like, Jem, just wait till you guys get screwed over in the CL or something. Like I'll be waiting.
You already screwed us over at home when Aspie got manhandled by Maguire in the box and we didn't get anything. Remember that one?
It wasn't really mad. It was showing him his presence blood.
Yeah. What, a WWE headlock?
Well, we did get away with that one, didn't we?
Presence blood. So,
that's Lincoln's favourite game, that was. Should refs be mic'd up? Yay or nay? I think yay because we can obviously hear it, we can benefit, and we come to the decision. I don't necessarily think it would change the decisions that they would make by doing it. I think it's more to the benefit of the people. 'Cause the people in the stadium as well wouldn't be able to hear it either. So it's really just for the benefit of people watching back home, what's going through their mind, to try and get their reasoning. But I don't think that it necessarily changes things really, because they're still going to come up to the same conclusions that they would, whether they might or not, and you still might disagree with what they say. You just might have a better idea, but even then, you might still verbally argue and say, "Well, hang on a minute, why did you come to that decision?" I think what might be better than having the mics is just literally just having like a referee report. So like when we see managers at the end of games, just having the referee and just say interview and say, "Listen, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that," and so on, explain themselves to summarize the thing might be a better thing in the context of the whole game, because it's very difficult to the problem with refereeing during a game, and I say this from my experience, I've done some refereeing, is that if you're not careful, you allow a decision early on in the game to affect how you referee the rest of the game. So even if you make a wrong decision, it's important you stay convicted in that decision to keep on going, so it doesn't bias you with how you referee the rest of the game. That's why I feel like it's better if we're going to get stuff from referees to explain, that they should explain at the end of the game rather than during the game, because it will naturally affect the way they referee the game. Does that make sense?
It's fair.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and yeah, it is fair. Just to clarify, for me, when I say refs mic'd up, I'm talking about the ref who's running VAR as well, not just the guy on the pitch. So I'm talking about hearing the whole conversation, so we know what's happened. Because I think if it was just the ref on the pitch, we'd still only hear half of it. We still wouldn't know what's been said to him. He's just going to say, you're just going to hear what he's saying to the players. You're going to have no reason to explain anything to the players. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about hearing the whole conversation of why VAR wants them to go and have a look at it, the opinion of that referee running that, and what the referee on the pitch is saying. Would that make a difference?
I don't think
but that's
they'll
what
do
I
that.
want to do.
I think I agree. I think they should. The
goes.
reason they won't do that is because it will put. I just think it's the pressure element of it, doing that and putting them in a position, because we've already seen that this season that VAR's not the issue. And I keep saying this, it's not VAR, the technology itself, it's the people using it. That's the problem. And that might just be that they're still trying to get used to themselves. Fair enough. They've not had it here for long. But I agree. I think Mike's would be good for it. I just don't think they would put that kind of pressure or controversy on the refs and whoever it is on the sidelines. Because can you imagine if they're actually talking about something and it goes the complete wrong way and we can all hear it and they don't give something, and how much controversy that would cause with the media and this, that and the other. It would just be an absolute nightmare for them. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
I think a big issue, to be honest, is actually more the fact that the big issue with VAR, I think, is that it's regarding the rules, the clarification. Arsenal agenda.
Here we go. Arsenal agenda.
Yeah.
Is that your gal?
No, it's not. It's Laurie.
No, I know. Yeah,
I was just thinking. Honestly, when people say that, I just think of a girl. But sorry, Adias, you're saying.
No. Arsenal fans were complaining about refs against more season. Like, well, I mean, Burnley and Olympiacos. Anyway, no, I was saying
breath, Adias, honestly.
they're happy in 11th place, so fair play to them. No, it's just like the issue with VAR it's not so they said Gem is VAR, it's the fact that it's made referees have to enforce the rules. And so it's actually brought up because let's bring before a good example would be technically the rules say that you should encroach into the box. But without VAR, referees weren't really doing it. They weren't really having the eye to see it, etc. You know, it's the law, but they weren't reinforcing it. But now that we have VAR, it's like, oh, wait a minute. The rule says that encroachment, you have to take it again. We now see that players are encroaching. So therefore, we now need to enforce it. And so we're seeing the regular enforcement of football rules that we don't normally see. The problem is that then it's now affecting the way that we see the game. And so when it comes to something like offside, where the rule is, if you're offside, you're offside, we're like, oh, it's only a sliver, it's only this, it's only that. And so I guess my point is that going forward, there has to be clarity with what the footballing rules are and that they are consistent for the whole season. So especially when it comes to likes of handball and things, if you say, right, okay, the ball touches your hand in the box, it's always a penalty, fine. It might be horrible, people might not like it, but at least if you do that to everybody, that's why I don't complain about the offside rule, because yes, it's a toenail, but it's going to apply to everybody. So what's the problem?
Yeah,
offside's not subjective though, is it? It's not a subjective thing. You're either offside or you're not. That's why I don't have a problem with the offside rule, even if it's a toenail or whatever. At the end of the day, you can score with your toenail. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're either offside or you're not. I get that. I said the other day, I think it's about the advantage that could be gained. That's where I think with handball you can. So this handball we're talking about here with the Man United Chelsea game, they're both running away from goal anyway. They're both running away from goal anyway. Did he really gain an advantage by that? I don't think so. It's not like he punched. It's not like he punched the ball away.
So could you argue there could be a free kick scenario, or do you think you have to ignore it because outside of the box they give it? So you'd have to have something in place of that.
Do you know what it is for me? I'm not. Before I say this, everybody smash the like, please share, subscribe to the channel, get in the description and follow everybody in there. No, for me it's more. I have no issue going back to accidental handball. Like unless you have an intention to move towards the ball, or you really have your arm in an unnatural position apart from jumping, right? Because this whole your arms not in a natural position, but you're jumping, you put your arms out to jump. Sometimes when you run, believe it or not, your arms move. So I don't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's true though. I hate it.
Or even when you're slide tackling, you don't slide tackle with your arms at your sides.
Or
usually move your arms.
If you're falling over or you've slipped,
Yeah.
You put your arms
yeah,
out
it's
for
common
balance.
sense, though, isn't it, Indiana? And this is the issue with football at the moment. There's no common sense when it comes to the handball rule. It's just they give they're just inconsistent, like RDS say. They're
Yeah.
just so inconsistent. But
It's-
what is a blatant handball for me is when
Yeah.
someone takes a shot and you're in the box and your arm is raised. Because for me, your arm shouldn't be coming up. There's no reason for your arm to be coming up when the ball's being shot at goal. I get them ones, but like you said with the Man United and Chelsea one, they were both running away from goal. They were both tussling with a ball that was bouncing in the air anyway. It wasn't like it was, you know what I mean? It was up in the air. So, like, it just didn't make it. It would have just been so soft. Do you know what I mean? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to ball to hand. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, ball to hand. Yeah,
Ball to hand.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It ruins the game because then VAR slows it down way too much for me right now, and I know they're still trying to work things out. But when it's things like ball to hand and it's not deliberate, I want the guy whoever's running VAR to say, look, we are checking a possible handball, but we think it's ball to hand. Yeah, it's ball to hand, not handball.
It's
Done.
It is difficult because I think that like there is so much subjectivity and we're very reactive to different decisions and stuff. So, you know, while I agree that it's harsh, a part of me does think that much like with the offside, as harsh as they are, also that it just might be easier to just have a completely objective way of handball that everything just goes by. So you say something like, if your arm is in an unnatural position and it hits your arm, it doesn't matter whether it's deliberate or not. Essentially, if it's by your side, fine. But if it's away and it hits your arm, it's a penalty in all circumstances.
But there has to be context to that. Doesn't
Yeah,
there?
it's always going to be subjective, that one. It's not. Yeah, it's always going to be subjective because it's as Indiana said. If you jump, it's not fair to give someone a handball as a handball because they've jumped in the air and maybe the cross is lower than what it should be, or the timing of the jump is mistimed. I don't think it's fair to give a penalty away for that. That would be pretty insane, really.
Do you know the one that gets me the most is the one handball that gets me the most is, you know, when they're in the box, you know, you got someone running down wing and they go to cross and then you slide on the floor. You naturally put your hands on the ground and it hits your arm. That's the one that gets me. What you meant to do? Flop like a salmon with your arms behind your back. go face first. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's not fair, but I just think that like the only way to give up, in my opinion, like a solution that works across the whole board is to add some sort of objectivity to the standard, even though like it's not going to be fair. The fairness comes from the fact that it's going to be the same circumstance to everybody. So it's harsh, but at least everybody will have the whole experience at some point, the harsh circumstance, as opposed to kind of what we have now, which is a different referee gives that handball against Chelsea. Another referee doesn't give it.
Yeah.
And if people are happy with that inconsistency, that's fine. But obviously, clearly, people don't seem to be happy with it. And
yes, I think the other problem you got is with offside. You're either offside or you're not. It's quite easy to that we can all sit there and agree with. If you're off, you're off. There's no other way. It's just you're offside. With handballs, there can be all different types of handballs, bro. You know what I mean? It's not like there's one certain way of you being able to hand to ball it, if that makes sense. So for me, that's the issue you got with subjecting it as hand. You know, if it hits your arm, that's it. It's a foul or it's a penalty. If that makes sense.
I didn't want to see. If that penalty was given, I don't really want to see that in football, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
That's not the sort of thing that makes me think there's any advantage gained. If he didn't handball it, that would have been a goal. If he didn't touch the ball with his hand or his arm, we would have scored.
It's just a grey area.
I know Bob's has got a different opinion. He's going to come.
But
he just talks nonsense anyway.
He's going to come out with. If that's anywhere else on the pitch, is a free kick.
It's nonsense.
We love Bob's. Go and check out Mr. Bob's, people. Make sure you go and do that on YouTube. But yeah, no, I think we're going to wrap up. Personally, I would like to see ball to hand come back in. I think we have to look at whether a player has gained an advantage or the attacking side have been stopped by a deliberate handball. So a shot, whether it's a cross, a corner, whatever it may be, a deliberate handball. And if it's about your arm being in a natural position, then there has to be context to that. It has to be, you can't be falling over in the box. It can't be jumping. That's still ball to hand. You have to move your arm towards the ball for me, for it to be handball. That's just the way I see it. Hopefully it'll all get worked out, because I can't see clubs. There's too much money in football for clubs to be okay with. Sometimes it's a handball and sometimes it's not. It has to be cleared up. I know they are meeting to discuss the handball rule, but it's what it is for now, isn't it? Listen, people, thank you everybody for coming on. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so you know when we're going live. We've got lots more shows coming up, a lot of Man United content as well. Tomorrow we've got the EFL show. They're going to be talking about the Sunderland takeover with some Sunderland fans. That'll be really interesting. And tomorrow night at 10 is the Offside Rule. So the ladies' show, great show hosted by Yannicka. Please go and check that out. And hopefully, if we can fit it in tomorrow, we'll be doing some Man United content, myself and Rachel, and maybe a few others. But thank you everyone for tuning in. And make sure you get in the description and check out everybody's channels and go follow them on socials.